When the stranger swung down from his saddle in Broken Creek, he didn't look like he was worth 2 rusty nails, let alone the $5 Martha Cullens had scraped together. His poncho hung off him in ragged strips. Wire held his boot heels together. The hat on his head had a clean, round hole right above the brim, a story nobody in the West was foolish enough to ask for. Some things out here were explained by scars and silence. Martha watched from her porch, dust curling around her worn work boots as he looped his reins around her fence post. Behind her stood the house her husband had raised with his own hands before cholera took him. All around her stretched 200 acres of pasture, grass and fence and sweat that the Garrett brothers wanted so badly they were willing to burn a widow alive for it. "You the one sent for protection?" the stranger asked. His voice sounded like dry grass in August, brittle, tired, and dangerous if you struck a spark near it. "I am," Martha replied. "You're the gunfighter." "I take coin," he said. "I make problems stop." He looked past her, taking in the pasture, the barn, the line of cottonwoods by the creek with eyes that had counted more graves than sunsets. $5, she said quietly, "that's all I have." He dipped his head once, slow, like a man who didn't waste movement on things that didn't matter. "The Garretts have 12 men," Martha added. "They said they're coming tomorrow. If I don't sign over the deed, they'll burn me out." 12, he repeated, not as a question, not with surprise, just like he'd been told the weather. Maybe I should have offered more, she thought, panic crawling up her ribs. The stranger's mouth twitched just at one corner, a thin, dangerous little grin that showed teeth the way a wolf does when it's about to eat and doesn't mind the work. "Lady," he said, "you didn't hire a man, you just bought yourself a war." And Martha Cullens had no idea she'd hired the one man in 3 territories for whom 12 gunmen would be nowhere near enough. Partner, if you like sinking into long, dusty tailies of the frontier, gunsmoke, widows and men trying to outrun their ghosts, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next ride. Tell me in the comments what country you're listening from. I love seeing how far these western winds carry our stories. Now stay with me till the end because what's coming might just surprise you. His name was Ezra Cole, though when Martha asked what to call him, he told her it wasn't necessary to call him anything at all. He didn't ask where he'd be sleeping, didn't ask for supper. He simply took his saddlebags to the barn, found a corner in the hay where he could see both doors at once, and settled there like he'd done it 1,000 times. Martha brought him coffee and biscuits anyway. She found him on a bale, sleeves rolled up, breaking down a revolver so old it looked like it might have barked at the Alamo. His hands moved with slow, exact care, steel, pin, cylinder like a familiar prayer. "You should know something about the Garretts," she said. "I know enough," he replied without looking up. "They killed my husband's brother last year. Sheriff said it was self-defense." Ezra slid the cylinder free, studied it, wiped it clean. "Sheriff's on their payroll," he said. "Whole town is one way or another." Martha sank onto an empty barrel, shoulders sagging, exhaustion carved into her face. "That's why I could only afford you." He glanced up, really looked this time. He saw a woman who'd buried her man and gone back to work because the cattle didn't care who lay in the ground. Hands cracked from rope and shovel. Eyes so tired they'd forgotten how to weep because crying cost time and salt she didn't have. "The others," she went on, "the expensive guns, they all said no. Said the Garretts own this valley. Said a widow alone isn't worth dying for. Maybe they're smarter than you." "Are you going to die tomorrow, Mr. Cole?" He began fitting pieces back together, movements measured and steady, each click soft as beads on a rosary. "Ma'am," he said, "I don't plan on it." "But 12 men." 12 frightened men with coin in their pockets, he cut in. "That's different from 12 men who know what they're standing for." He slid the revolver together with one last solid snap, then holstered it in a motion so smooth it might have been part of his anatomy. "The Garretts," he said, "they're used to buying what they want and burning what they can't buy. They've never tripped over someone who can't be bought and won't burn." "And you're that someone?" she asked. Ezra stood, stretching, old scars tightening across his shoulders in the evening chill. Somewhere out in the fading light, a coyote yipped, lonely and thin. Ezra had heard that sound in more towns than he remembered. Different dirt, same sorrow. "I used to be a lot of things, Mrs. Cullens," he said. "Used to have a place like this. Used to think law meant something, that fairness was more than a word. Then men like the Garretts educated me. His voice hardened into iron. They taught me bullies only understand pain, and that sometimes the only justice is the kind that comes out the barrel of a gun you hold yourself. He buckled his gun belt, eyes on the dark horizon. So tomorrow, he said softly, I'm going to speak to the Garretts in a language they'll understand just fine. Dawn crawled up cold and red over Martha's land. Ezra was already outside. Truth was, he hadn't slept at all. Sleep, like mercy and second chances, was something he'd left behind years back. He stood in the yard, watching the lay of the land the way a chess player watches a board. There were three approaches: the main road, wide and straight, the dry creek bed twisting through brush, and the low ridge to the north. Men with numbers like to come from all directions, surround a place, make it feel small and doomed. Martha came out with 2 chipped cups and a pot of coffee that smelled bitter but hot. They'll be here by noon, she said. Sooner, Ezra replied. Men like that want to be home before supper counting what they stole. He took a long swallow. You got family in town. No, this is my home. It's going to get loud, he warned. I've heard loud before. Her voice held steady, but her hands shook just enough to tell the truth. Ezra walked the perimeter, counting his blessings, which turned out to be an old water trough, a tool shed, the barn, and a couple of half-rotted fence posts that might pass for cover in a pinch. He moved like a man on familiar ground, not this ranch, but this kind of day. You ever killed a man, Mrs. Cullens? He asked. The question hung between them like gun smoke. No, she whispered. Good, Ezra said, don't start today. He checked his revolver, then the rifle from his saddle, then the second pistol from his boot. Stay inside, he told her. Whatever you hear, whatever you see, you do not come out. What am I going to see? He didn't answer, just walked out to the center of the yard and stood there, a ragged scarecrow planted in dust. Only this scarecrow wore 3 guns and had eyes like January. At 10:30, dust smeared the horizon. By 11:15, Martha saw them, 12 riders strong, just like she'd said. They came in at a walk, calm as men riding into a job they'd done too many times to feel anything about. At the front sat Clayton Garrett, big shoulders, bigger reputation. To his right, his brother Marcus, meaner and less patient. Behind them, the usual sort, range trash with guns and not enough fear. They fanned out as they came, forming a loose half-circle around the ranch house, horses shifting, leather creaking. Professional, practiced, predatory. Clayton reined in about 20 yards from Ezra. You're standing on ground we're about to own, he called. Ride out now, you walk away, stay, and you die with the widow. Ezra said nothing. The breeze moved his poncho. That was the only response they got. In that quiet, in that thin slice of time before everything exploded, Clayton Garrett finally understood why all the higher-priced gunmen had refused this job. You know who we are, Marcus shouted. Still nothing. We own this valley, Clayton said. Sheriff, judge, bank, all ours, in this land, about to be ours too, so I'll ask you one last time, stranger, ride out. Ezra's answer came so soft it barely cleared his lips, yet somehow every man in the yard heard it. No. 1 word, 2 letters, enough defiance to fill a universe. Clayton's jaw tightened. You're a damn fool, we're 12, you're 1. 12, Ezra murmured. Funny number, you know what I see? I see 12 targets, 12 men who ain't never had someone fire back, 12 bullies about to learn that numbers don't weigh much when the man in front of you knows how to kill. Big talk from a ragged scarecrow, Marcus sneered. Not talk, Ezra said, resting his hand lightly on his revolver, not drawing, just letting them see the choice they were making. This is me offering you the same courtesy you showed Mrs. Cullens. Ride out. Crawl back under whatever rock you came from, forget this land. Some of the hired guns shifted in the saddle, glancing at one another. There was something in the way Ezra spoke, flat, final, that made gold feel cheap in their pockets. And if we do, Marcus demanded. Then 12 men left town this morning, Ezra said, fewer come back. Clayton laughed, mean and ugly, the laugh of a man who'd always been the butcher and never the beef. Boys, he called, let's teach this drifter some manners. Hands dropped to guns. Ezra moved. Not fast, faster than fast. His revolver cleared leather like the gun had been waiting impatiently. Bang! The first rider pitched sideways, dead before he hit dirt. Bang! The second grabbed his chest, staring down at the spreading red like it was some kind of magic trick gone wrong. Bang! The third's pistol tumbled from his fingers. He stared at it, confused, then tumbled after it, already gone. 3 shots, 3 heartbeats, 3 men who would never see sundown. The remaining 9 froze. 9, Ezra said calmly, smoke drifting from his barrel as his fingers worked, already dropping fresh rounds into the cylinder. Want to see 6, 3, or you want to live long enough to ride away? From the house, Martha watched through the window, a hand pressed to her mouth. This wasn't a fair fight, it wasn't even a fight, it was a storm wearing boots and a torn poncho. And at last, the Garrett brothers understood that 12 guns had never been enough. To stop this man, they'd need an army. The yard turned into a painted picture, 9 men still in their saddles, 1 man standing alone in dust, and death hanging invisible between them like the smell of cordite. He just killed Bobby Clay, one hired gun whispered. Shut up, Clayton snapped, but his voice betrayed him, trembling at the edges. He built a kingdom on fear, burning barns, beating farmers, buying sheriffs. He'd never had someone stand in front of him and shoot back, shoot first, shoot true, and not blink. Marcus, hot-blooded as ever, went for his gun. Bang! Ezra's bullet took the hat clean off his head, spinning it into the dust, not his skull, his hat. A warning so exact it might as well have been a signature. The next one goes between your eyes, Marcus, Ezra said, voice almost gentle. Your brother knows it, your men know it. Question is, are you smart enough to know it? Marcus froze, his face went gray. For the first time in his life, real fear settled on him like a wet coat. You can't kill us all, Clayton said hoarsely. Maybe you drop a few, but you can't take 12. Maybe not, Ezra answered. But I put you down first, your brother next, that much I can promise. So even if your boys manage to kill me after that, and that's a mighty big if, you won't be around to enjoy it. 3 of the hired guns slowly turned their horses away. Where are you going? Clayton roared. Anywhere else, one said. You ain't paying enough to die for, Mr. Garrett. They trotted off, then spurred faster, fleeing the scarecrow who'd stepped out of their nightmares. That left 6. Clayton, Marcus, 4 who were either loyal or stupid enough not to know the difference. Any of the rest of you want to rethink your wages? Ezra asked. 2 more broke rank and galloped away, leaving only dust and a boss they weren't willing to die beside. 4 now, the Garrett brothers and 2 men in way over their heads. This isn't finished, Clayton snarled. We'll come back tonight, tomorrow with more men. You can't guard her forever. Don't need forever, Ezra said, just need today. You're a dead man, Scarecrow, Marcus spat. Ezra's smile returned, that cold, tireless wolf smile. I've been called worse, been called dead before too, still here. The 4 men wheeled their horses and rode away, not quite running, but nowhere near winning. Martha watched them go and saw Clayton glance back once. In that look there was no surrender, only calculation. They'd be back. The day dragged on, long and tight as a drawn bowstring. Martha and Ezra buried the 3 bodies in a far corner of the property. No words, no crosses, just dirt. Ezra dug with the same calm he shot with. The silence between them felt heavy with questions neither dared ask. They'll come back, Martha said finally, brushing soil from her hands. Yes, Ezra said, you knew that when you sent for me. Yes. Clayton's the kind who can't swallow losing, Ezra went on, not in front of his men. He'll gather more, buy better guns, and hit us after dark. So we wait, she asked. We prepare, he corrected. They strung tin cans filled with pebbles across every approach. Hung oil lamps where they could be kicked over fast for light or fire. Ezra moved with the efficiency of a man who'd held positions before and lost too many. You were a soldier, Martha observed. Once, he said. Union. Confederate, he answered. Then Union, then neither. War taught me that flags don't matter much when everybody's dying just the same. What happened to you? Ezra paused, rope between his fingers, hand suddenly still. For one moment, the hard shell he wore cracked just enough for something raw to show through. I had a wife, he said quietly. Sarah had a boy, Daniel had a ranch down in New Mexico territory. His voice slipped down to nearly nothing. Men like the Garretts wanted my land. I told 'em no, so they came at night, put fire to everything. Sarah didn't make it out. Daniel, he swallowed. Daniel was 6. Martha's hand went to her chest. Ezra, you don't have to. He lifted his hand. Don't pity me, he said. That man who had a family died in that fire, same as they did. What's left is just. He searched for the word. Just what came after, he finished. Revenge, justice, whatever name you want to use. Is there a difference? Martha asked softly. Ezra looked at her and she saw it then, the bottomless pit in his gaze, grief so deep it had learned to walk around wearing a man's face and speaking in gunfire. I've spent 5 years hunting men like the Garretts, he said, men who think money and numbers make them untouchable. I'm the one who reminds them they bleed. He checked the knots on the tripwire. And tonight, he said, I'm going to remind them why the cheapest gun can be the deadliest one. Night dropped over the ranch like a curtain. Ezra settled Martha in the root cellar beneath the house. He set a lamp and a water jug on the dirt floor. No matter what you hear, you stay down here till daybreak, he said. Understood. And if you... I won't, he cut her off. He checked his weapons one last time, 3 guns, 30 rounds, however many men Clayton thought his pride required. But if the math goes bad, he added quietly, and I don't make it, you run, don't fight, don't you dare be brave, you run to town and you don't ever come back here. This is my land, she protested. Land's not worth dying for, he said. It's worth dying for you, she shot back. I'm not dying for land, Ezra replied. I'm dying for the chance to hurt men who deserve to hurt. He climbed the ladder, big difference. The cellar door shut. Martha sat in darkness, heart hammering, listening to the house creak and the wind drag fingers along the boards. Above her, Ezra moved through the rooms, snuffing lamps, turning the house into a nest of shadows that belonged to him, not them. He settled into a chair by a window, revolver laid across his lap, and let the stillness wrap around him. The West was good at silence. It could stretch it until it felt like a scream nobody heard. Around midnight, the first rattle of cans broke the dark. Ezra's eyes snapped open. Part of him had been resting, the other part never truly slept. War had taught him that trick. More rattling, footsteps, many coming from every direction. Smart Clayton had learned from the morning. Ezra slipped to the back window, saw shapes moving low through the night, counted 6, no 7. He moved to the front, 5 more. A dozen in all ringed around the house like wolves around a wounded animal. Scarecrow, Clayton's voice slurred out of the dark, you awake in there. Ezra kept his silence, let them stew in their own fear. We brought company, Clayton shouted. Rode to Stockton, paid good money for men who know how to kill, not like this morning's trash. He sounded drunk on confidence again. You're outnumbered, outgunned, Clayton called. Come out with your hands up, maybe we let you crawl away. Ezra could hear the lie in his voice plain as a cracked note in a hymn. Last chance, Scarecrow, Clayton shouted. Come out or we burn you alive. Still, Ezra waited, counted heartbeats, marked where the voices came from, calculated angles, distances, how fire would throw light. Burn it, Clayton finally ordered. Torches flew through the windows, glass shattered, curtains caught, the house roared to life, flames licking ceilings, heat blooming instantly. Inside that growing inferno, Ezra Cole smiled. Fire meant light, and light meant targets. As the flames climbed, he crawled low beneath the worst of the smoke to the shattered front window. Outside, the men were silhouettes now, black shapes against the glow, clear as cutouts. Bang! A torchbearer spun and hit the ground, his torch flying. Bang! Another man went down screaming, clutching a ruined leg. He's still shooting, someone yelped, panic punching through the drunken bravado. They expected a trapped man begging for mercy, coughing and pleading. What they'd gotten was a devil firing out of the mouth of hell. Ezra sprinted for the back door, lunged through it into the cool night, rolled, came up already firing. Bang hit. Bang miss. Bang hit. The confusion was his ally. Men stared at the burning house, not the shadows behind them. He ran for the barn, reloading as he moved. Inside, the dark swallowed him whole. He climbed the ladder to the loft, found a gap between boards that gave him a clean view of the yard. 9 left, maybe 8, hard to count when everyone was running and screaming. Find him, Clayton bellowed, he's in the barn. 4 men advanced toward the barn, guns up, steps cautious now. They learned a bit of respect the expensive way. Ezra let them get right under him. Then he kicked over a lamp. Oil spilled through the slats and kissed the hay below. Flame chased it like it had been waiting. In a heartbeat, fire bloomed under the barn as well. Ezra dove from the loft, hit the ground near the water trough, rolled, came up shooting again. Bang, one of the 4 dropped. Bang, another toppled. The last 2 broke and ran, their courage burning up faster than the buildings. 7 left, or 6, or fewer. Numbers started to smear together when there was this much smoke, flame, and screaming. Clayton and Marcus hugged the far side of their horses, using them as living shields. Cowards, Ezra shouted, hiding behind animals. You're dead, Marcus screamed back. Then come prove it, Ezra called, stepping out into the open yard framed between the burning house and the blazing barn. Flames turned him into a black shape outlined in orange, a target daring them. Or are you only brave when it's unarmed farmers and widows? Marcus snapped, rage drowned what little sense he had. He charged, firing wildly, bullets carving nothing but night. Ezra waited 1 breath, 2. Bang! Marcus crumpled 5 paces away, a neat hole in his chest, shock frozen in his eyes. 1 brother down, Ezra called. Clayton, you want to be next. Yeah. From the dark came Clayton's voice, colder than before, ragged with hate. Kill him, all of you now. The remaining men rushed, desperate, frightened, goaded by the only man still paying them. Ezra dropped to 1 knee, braced and fired in a steady rhythm. Bang! 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 Each shot placed exactly where it needed to go. 3 men fell. Suddenly only Clayton and 2 hired guns were left. Ezra's revolver clicked empty. He drew his second pistol, but one of the gunmen got a shot off first. Bang! The bullet tore across Ezra's shoulder, spinning him sideways. Pain flared hot, but he'd bled worse. He rolled behind the water trough, gritting his teeth, reloading his first gun by feel. Footsteps approached. He waited, counted. 1, 2, 3. He spun out. Bang! The closer man dropped. The last hired gun had flanked him, smart, professional, the first real killer of the bunch. They fired in the same breath. Bang, bang. Both men crashed to the dirt. Ezra gasped, a bullet burning a hole through his side. Not instantly fatal, but bad. He felt warmth spread beneath his shirt. The other gunman lay still. He wouldn't be bothering anyone ever again. Now there was only Clayton. Ezra pushed himself upright, leaning hard on the trough. The world tilted. The house and barn burned like twin funeral pyres, lighting up the night so bright it looked like midday in hell. Just you and me now, Clayton, Ezra shouted. Silence answered. Then Clayton called back, voice raw. You cost me everything, Scarecrow, my men, my brother, my name. You should have ridden out this morning. I can't let you live. Not even dying, I can't let you live. Clayton stepped out from behind his horse, rifle in hand, eyes wild. I'll give you a bargain, he said. You tell me how 1 man does all this and I'll make it quick. Ezra laughed, harsh and wet, tasting blood. You want the secret, he rasped. Yes. There isn't one, he said. I'm not faster, not stronger. He coughed, red on his lips. I'm just willing to die. You're not, your men weren't. That's the difference between a legend and a bully who pays for company. I'm willing now, Clayton growled. Too late to learn, Ezra said. They faced each other 20 yards apart, both wounded, both swaying, both at the end of their road. Hell's waiting, Scarecrow, Clayton said. I'll save you a chair. They fired together. Bang, bang. Smoke and fire embraced them both. For one hanging instant, they both remained upright. Then Clayton Garrett toppled backward, a hole where his heart used to be. Ezra stayed on his feet a heartbeat longer. His gun slipped from his fingers. He went to his knees as the cellar door creaked open and Martha stepped into a yard filled with bodies and flame. Ezra, she cried, running to him. She dropped beside him, hands flying to the bleeding at his side and shoulder. There's too much blood. Stay down, he groaned. You all right? They're all dead, she said. It's over. She tore strips from her dress, pressed them hard against the wound in his side. The bullet had punched clean through, messy but not hopeless. "We have to get you inside," she said. "Inside on fire," he reminded her. It was. The house and barn blazed like two giant funeral candles. Everything she owned was turning to ash right before her eyes. "The root cellar," she decided. She hauled him up, his arm heavy across her shoulders. He weighed more than his thin frame suggested, a man built of muscle, bone, and scars. They staggered through the yard, stepping over corpses. 12 men had come at dawn, 12 more after dark. 24 dead men for $5 and one widow's refusal to surrender. In the cellar, Martha worked by lamplight. She'd been a farmer's wife. She knew the look of men who wouldn't last an hour. Ezra didn't have that look, not yet, but he was close enough to shake hands with it. "You're a fool," she whispered as she cleaned and bandaged the wound. "A suicidal, stubborn fool." "Been called worse," he muttered. "You nearly died for what, $5? Ezra's eyes found hers, clear despite the pain. "Wasn't for the money," he said. "Then why?" He didn't answer right away. His breath came shallow in and out as he wrestled with the darkness